Oh yeah.
Regulators. We regulate any stealing of his property. We're damn good, too.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't be any geek off the street.
Mm-mm.
Gotta be handy with the steel, if you know what I mean. Earn your keep.
All right.
Regulators, mount up. It was a clear black night, a clear white moon. Warren G was on the streets.
Did he say moon? How's it going? What's up, Crypto Laureates? This is Crypto Yogi. Today, I want to talk about regulation. Regulation. What is regulation? Regulation is a rule or directive made and maintained by an authority. You will respect my authority. So, here we go. It's about rules, right? But it's about maintaining rules and it's about authority. Okay? Now, really, what regulation is action. So, yes, a rule is passed. Okay, you have some words, but it's really about the actions or process of regulating. What actions are taken to regulate something? When we say Bitcoin will be regulated, cryptocurrencies will be regulated, the government will regulate, what does that mean? What actions are people taking? So first of all, let's look at what is a government. Let's think about what is a government. You can say that a government is a system. It's basically a system of control. Okay, it's a system of control. And from here on out, when I use the word government, I'm really talking about the group of people, the individuals and collective group of people that exercise that control. Okay, and perhaps it's on an executive level, or perhaps it's just as agents of the government. For example, police, public school teachers, and other agents, tax agents. They they collectively are government. When we say government, it's kind of like a corporation in the sense that it 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 acts like a natural person, but is not. It's a corporation. However, it requires people to do the actions, take the actions. So these are the agents of the government. So when I say government, I'm really talking about agents, human beings who take actions, who have families, who walk and talk and do all the things that other human beings do. Now, government in this clip is described as by Barack Obama as a monopoly on the use of violence. To put it in context, he's talking about the privatization of military forces. Okay, but nevertheless, his comment is clear and he distinguishes what sets government apart.
Something that is what essentially sets a nation state apart, which is the monopoly on violence. And
The monopoly on violence sets a nation state apart. So, what is the government doing to control? What are these human individuals doing to regulate? What actions are they taking? They're taking violent actions, either through stealing, which might be called confiscation and other euphemisms, or through other violent acts like kidnapping and confining, which might be called throwing you in jail, right? Okay. Now, government actions, the actions of these human beings are political. We reference government and politics together, which relates to the government or public affairs of a country. Okay, that's what political means. Mm, and let's look at this derogatory meaning of political, um, because I think it matters for us in the sense that when something is done politically, it might be done in the interests of status or power. In the interests of status or power. Power. Okay? Now, my idea here is that politics and political actions and decisions are inherently economic actions and distinctions, because really, what sorts of things does a government go after and do? Uh, they go after economic things. They go after money. What do they really want to control? They want to control resources and the allocation of resources, and they're the permission providers as well as the resource movers. That's what the government historically is, and that's what they continue to do. So although when we talk about governments acting, we're talking about political actions, really they are also economic actions. And so we can think of a government really as having a kind of a business model. And this will come out as we go on. But a business model in the sense that they're taking actions which have effects, and whether they have a monopoly on the authority to use violence and other such things, there are instances where they do have to withstand some competition, and can just like other businesses can fail because they don't adapt to the competition, or they don't adapt to the new business models that are coming out, so their business model just dies of failure. I don't know what else to say. The governments too will either adapt their business models or they won't. And the ones that adapt their business models will be successful in this decentralized world, whereas the ones that don't adapt their business models so well might really suffer. When we talk about a business model, we're talking about creating, delivering, capturing value. Government might not necessarily create value. They might take value from others and then redistribute it, or deliver some value after there's been some intermediation where they've skimmed off of that value. However, needless to say, they do operate in the value delivery, about resources and money. And I guess you could say they kind of create money, but whatever. Needless to say, governments are going to have to adapt their business models or suffer the consequences. And we'll get into that in a moment. But we've been hearing a lot about regulation, and so you just hear people. It's kind of already in their subconscious. Of course, people have been educated by government institutions, right? Public schools or whatever, and just through the whole society, we socialize ourselves to already have a fear of government. And why not? They point to a lot of guns at a lot of people and make a lot of threats, and the coercion of a government is very clear and palpable. So that's why, especially when it comes to money and all these things, people know that governments are willing to mess with you big time.
The idea that it'll be private in terms of transaction.
In terms of the government allowing it to be a private currency.
Right. In other words, people won't know what you're doing, and will it be a private currency, is really questionable in terms of, if you look at what's being gone on in terms of governments to examine it and so on and so forth. And then when you take Bitcoin.
Again, so just ideas of government stepping in. Oh, will government allow, and this and that. And we'll see, perhaps, maybe government has a choice. Maybe it doesn't in this matter. Here's Mohammed El-Arian making a similar mention.
It is a disruptive technology, but the current pricing assumes massive adoption. And I don't think that governments will allow the amount of adoption that is currently priced in.
If you're in Venezuela...
Government won't allow massive adoption. I wonder why. I think we all know why. It's because we're not dealing with tulips, in the sense that we're not dealing with just any regular commodity, which already they like to control all these things, but we're dealing with something that's even more crippling to a government if they cannot control it, and that is the money supply, and the issuance of money, and the control over money. I appreciate Brian Kelly's commentary on Jamie Dimon and the situation in general. Let's listen to Jamie Dimon's comments, and then we'll continue.
I mean, you can like it or not like it, but my own view is that eventually government's going to close it down. They like to control their currency. They like to know who has it, where it goes, why it goes, when it goes.
Yes.
They like to see it. And the cryptocurrency is the opposite. So again, I prefer digital. You might have a crypto dollar. I would prefer that than a cryptocurrency which is not a fiat currency.
Interesting. He makes some pretty good case for cryptocurrencies right there. But of course, then Jamie Dimon goes on to talk about how he prefers government-backed currencies, whether they be digital or whatever. So you can hear it in his voice, and you can hear it in his words. Understand that the governments want to control the currency. They need to control the currency. Otherwise, a lot of their source of power is removed. And then they have to actually provide value once again. Otherwise, well, emperor without clothes, what was that? So we'll just continue before going back down there. We had this set up, but it's not. So we'll go to that.
We've done something
where
with the
did we go?
Bitcoin
Why did it
exchange.
go so small? Here, let's go over here.
You think they could end badly? Is that a fear?
It will end badly, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And,
Well,
and it'll end when people lose a lot of money. The government's going to come down when people think they use it as an investment, or it becomes too big where governments say we want to control it now. And I've had many people say, well, how can you control Bitcoin? It's very simple. If I said to everyone in this room, if you buy or sell a Bitcoin, if you bet to buy and sell a Bitcoin, if you or bet anything where I'm going to put you in jail, it's over. And so watch what's going to happen in China. It doesn't mean.
There you go. Showing your true colors, buddy. If you don't like something people are doing that's voluntary and not harming anybody in any direct way like that, what do you want to do? You want to bring violence to them. Not cool, Jamie. Why you want to bring violence on people? Who are you to bring violence on people just for being engaged in voluntary transactions? Goodness me. Anyhow. So what do we see here? Brian Kelly disagrees about these ideas that Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies being squashed by governments, at least in the sense that he's reminding us that nothing can stop an idea whose time has come. Nothing can stop an idea whose time has come. I think that's really important to remember. And he rightfully points out that Jamie Dimon's problem isn't with the technology behind Bitcoin called blockchain. We know that because all of that work that's been done with blockchain, and JP Morgan and Jamie Dimon has mentioned it. Okay, it's the currency. That's the problem he has with it. And again, it's because it becomes a big threat to government. And he's afraid, or he thinks that they're going to shut it down and render the currency worthless. But I think here's the main idea that we're getting across here is that if other countries were to follow the lead. Now, here's the thing. Each country or each government is not acting all together. They're not all in agreement on this. They have their different ideas of what's going on and what they need to do about it and what they want to do about it. Because remember, ultimately, the governments are simply human beings. Andreas Antonopoulos always blessing us with amazing commentary and thoughts. Here you go. If your response to competition is the government will close it down if it gets too big, you're clearly afraid of free markets. And yes, government people and well-established financial racketeers, you might call them, they are very afraid of free markets because government cannot compete in the free market of anything, and they definitely can't compete in the free market of money because, well, we can get into that another time. And then, big old John McAfee, there is no way, either legislative or technological, for governments to shut down cryptocurrencies. It simply cannot be done. Well, it's interesting because they will try, and I'm very excited to see how things develop, especially if McAfee is 100% accurate on that one. We shall see. In that South China Morning Post article discussing McAfee and his comments, they mention the looming conflict between cryptocurrencies and governments, decentralized private cryptocurrencies and governments. Okay, but again, just remember Bitcoin's status varies in different jurisdictions. And so, which governments are going to adapt their business models in order to survive and thrive in these times, and which governments are going to not adapt their business model and suffer the consequences? Again, another great article here introducing us from CoinDesk, introducing us to Arthur Hayes. He isn't necessarily long crypto, but he's short on government. He's shorting government, and his core investing thesis is that a digital society needs digital cash, and so governments are going to issue digital fiats that function similarly to cryptocurrency, but the difference is going to be private versus public, decentralized versus centralized. And it's mentioned here, government-controlled digital fiat will be the antithesis, I can't get that right, will be the antithesis of absolutely everything true cryptocurrency stands for. Central banks' issuance of digital money will lead to a brave new world where governments are able to monitor and control every single transaction in an economy. That's what Jamie Dimon mentioned, right? They want to see it, they want to control it, they want to know where it is, where it's going, blah, blah, blah. And cryptocurrency itself, blockchain, decentralized, permissionless value transfer, stands for something which is in complete opposition to that. And therefore, the two cannot coexist in the same sense. They might run parallel to each other, but again, that's fine because that brings competition and a bit more of a free market situation. And that's great because then the rightful winners will win. In this article from News BTC, they're discussing some comments made by Kyle Bass. This is Joseph Young writing here. And some of the main ideas, this paragraph is pretty key over here. But Bitcoin's value stems from the lack of centralized entities manipulating its value and its transparent nature. It has created its own separate and independent economy through decentralization, which cannot be manipulated by banks, governments, and regulators. And here from CoinDesk, which most people have probably seen by now, at least if you're into the crypto space. Revolutionary, the Finland Central Bank paper. And basically the idea is that Bitcoin itself cannot be regulated. Violence can be brought to individual people. Theft, people can have their property taken away from them, and threats can be made and coercion can go on. But Bitcoin itself, okay, as this protocol, cannot be regulated. It's already out there. It's like it's already been shot out of the cannon and it's flying. It's out there. You can't stuff it back. It's like that toothpaste. You can't stuff it back in the tube. Once you squeeze out all that toothpaste, how are you going to stuff it back in the tube? You can't. And here, even the telegraph.co.uk, basically coming back to the idea that some countries are taking it as a commodity like we are, other places are treating it like money, and others are treating it as unknown, which changes the way you tax things. So again, different nation states or different sovereigns or different governments are going to take different stances towards the cryptos. And so that's actually a nice thing. It's a good thing because in the sense that there will be options for cryptocurrency advocates and users. At least that's how it seems that things will play out. We'll finish off with a couple of tweets here because, again, Andreas Antonopoulos reminds us of some nuances of Bitcoin and the protocol, which is the decentralizing of power. The decentralizing of power and disintermediation, neutrality, and censorship resistance. Remember, It's a good thing we didn't ask for permission and do not need approval. There's no stopping this phenomenon. The invention is out. It can't be undone. So we shall see what the regulators are going to do. We shall see how this plays out, but it seems like the technology itself, the protocol itself, and the people who are on board this rocket ship and the piles of people who continue to get on board every day, well, we're understanding that the governments have one hand. They always have the same hand, and they always play that hand. That hand is violence and coercion. And now it might not work this time. In fact, I'm confident that it won't. So, hope you've enjoyed this video presentation. Let me know in the comments down below any of your thoughts. And of course, please share this with one friend that you trust and care about, or anybody that you think deserves to hear this. Peace out.
And if your ass is a buster, 213 will regulate.